everyone, and thanks for listening in this episode. Just a fair warning before listening to this episode that this is full of a lot of video game talk. And if that's not your cup of tea, that's totally fine. You can leave whenever you like. The first half of the episode is not too bad, and I highly suggest you listen in. The second half of the episode is full of tons of video game talk, though. Just a reminder that you can leave whenever you'd like, and thanks for listening to the episode once again.
Hello, welcome to the Projection Project. My name is Rain. I'm your super awesome, epic, and cool host. And today I have a super awesome, epic, and cool person with me, and her name is Kieran.
Hi.
For anyone who doesn't know, Kieran is my sister. So this episode is a little bit different just because we're filming it in person. So if it sounds weird, I'm so sorry. How does it feel to be on my podcast?
I'm really excited. I feel really cool.
You better be. If any of you guys come and bully my sister or anything, I will make sure your phone never plugs in at night. I will make sure every stoplight you are at is red. I will make sure your pillow is always warm.
That's so ominous.
I have to make sure that the threats are not like stalking you, but like making sure like it's like the worst things that'll like make sure it's gonna like make you cry, you know?
Fair enough.
Because if your phone is only gonna charge at one angle, like I hated that when my phone was like that.
Yeah, same. Oh my god. Because then you couldn't use it while it was laying down.
I know. And that's how like my old phone charger was. And I got this new epic phone charger.
Hell yeah.
We stand Walgreens.
Thanks, Walgreens.
Anyway, a little backstory. For the longest time, my mom and sister did not know about my account or anything. I've had my account for around a year now. And obviously I've had the podcast now for about 2 months. And randomly I had like the urge to like tell my mom and sister about everything. When did I tell you guys? Like a month ago?
I want to say, yeah, a little less than a month ago.
Because I remember we were on our way to the pumpkin patch, but like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, so a little less than a month ago.
Yeah, I decided to tell them over like a little less than like a month ago. And I was like really scared to tell them, right? And I had like no way planned to tell them. And I realized as I'm like telling them in like the worst way possible that my sister was going to think that this was a coming out story or like me coming out. And I had to stop midway through and tell her that I'm not coming out.
I was very disappointed.
She's like, oh, dang it. And then I ended up telling them about everything. And they had like no questions. They were like, okay. Like they just accepted it. And I was like, what? I was like, okay, the fuck. But you guys had like a couple, or our mom was like really thrown off that I had started a podcast. I feel like
for me, I felt like it was really in character for you. So
that I started a podcast.
Yeah. Well, and then you told me about what it was about, and I was like, this fucking nerd.
Yeah, like seems fitting. A little bit.
Fitting. And then I checked it out, and I was like, oh my god. This is exactly what I thought it would be.
But yeah, no, they had no questions whatsoever. I told them about my account, how many followers I had, everything like that. Originally, for the longest time, I had no concerns about them finding it because neither of them had TikTok. And then my sister joined TikTok. And then about a couple months later, my mom joined TikTok, and I was like, God damn it. So now I'm like, whatever. I just don't like want, I guess, my friends. I mean, I don't know. Some of my friends are like, fine. I don't really care if they find it. A couple friends of mine know about my podcast, which is like, if you guys are listening to this, you guys are super cool. I love you. I specify my in real life friends, not mutuals. Any of my mutuals, super epic. Thank you guys for listening to my podcast, being on my podcast. Love you guys so much. But so then we're driving home. There's a reason why I'm telling this story. We're driving to basically we're on a long drive home, and out of the blue my sister is asking a whole bunch of questions about shifting, and I'm like the Pink Panther music is like playing in my head, like, why are you asking all these questions? And because like they didn't ask all these questions before, and so they were like had totally accepted the fate. And then Kieran was like, I think I shifted, and I was like, what? So do you want to talk about your shifting experience, bestie?
No.
No.
Might be easier if you prompted me.
I like just with some questions, bestie.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, she was asking a whole bunch of questions. And I'm trying to remember. Oh, she was like asking like what, like shifting ones, like DR, like how you kind of get there, like things like that, like really like simple stuff, you know. And so I had talked about this a little bit, where she went to Mass Effect, which I talked about in the third episode. You should totally check out the third episode if you've not listened to it. So basically, Mass Effect is a video game series that takes place super in the future in space. It's really fun. I love it.
Yes, that's probably my comfort series.
But yeah, it's like did I already say it's in space? It's in space again. In space times 2.
It's in the Milky Way galaxy, so it's a little bit more relatable than just assuming it's somewhere random.
Yeah, it talks about Earth like all the time. Like it's not, and stuff like that. But there are like tons of alien races and like and it takes place all around like this one main character that is the main character in all 3 games so far. That's like just prompting you for what my sister is like gonna talk about. But yeah, so there are like tons of characters that you meet in these games, and one of my sister's favorite characters is Garrus, and Garrus is what kind is he again?
He is a Turian. He is one of the crewmates that you can have in all 3 games. He is, for a little bit of context, he's also a romance option in the 2nd and 3rd game, and I did romance him because I'm a little bit of a simp.
A little bit.
He's really funny. I like Garrus.
He's a very popular character in the series.
You do get to have him as a crewmate in all 3 games. I've only played the 2nd one. My sister has played all 3. We're telling you all this so my sister can talk about my experience. If you're like, wow, this is really boring, there's a point to all this. So basically, sister shifted to Mass Effect without really knowing it. So my sister, I think I talked about this in the lucid dreaming episode, which is the 2nd episode where we talk about the theories in lucid dreaming. My sister lucid dreams quite often, like all the time and stuff like that. She just chooses not to like control it because apparently it takes a lot of energy for her, or like she wakes up really drained. So she said it didn't feel the same. Whenever I was like, did it feel the same? Like, and she said no. Do you want to talk about how different it felt compared to lucid dreaming?
Yeah, so lucid dreaming, so like you said, it makes me especially feel very drained. I chronically lucid dream as well as sleepwalk usually on top of that. So my body doesn't get a lot of rest if I put effort into lucid dreaming. So I normally do not control it. But the reason that this felt different was mostly because rather than feeling physically drained, I felt emotionally drained. I felt like when I came, like the emotions were much more intense. As I mentioned to you when I first told you about it, usually when I can feel things, like when they're tangible in my dreams, they usually hurt to touch. But when I was on the Normandy, which is the ship in Mass Effect, I could touch things and they felt tangible. They felt tangible, but they didn't hurt to touch. Like I could feel the textures of the characters' hands, and I could feel the buttons on like the keyboards, like. And it didn't burn or anything. And that was probably the biggest difference.
How long ago was this, by the way? I meant to ask you that whenever we were in the car ride.
It was actually very recently. Maybe about 3 or so weeks ago. It happened like a week before I listened to your 2nd episode, which is why I asked about it.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
And ironic.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. I was like, maybe this is a sign.
Damn, maybe I should go and talk to my sister about this.
Yeah, I was like, maybe I should go consult an expert.
Have you tried to go back yet or no?
I have not. I'm not even sure how to go back. As I mentioned, I don't think I did it on purpose. I have no idea how I ended up there the first time. I would really like to go back, but I just don't know how to. I think it's something that I would have to accidentally do again.
Well, obviously, we can talk more about this later. We roughly talked about it in the car ride. But I think a good way for you to try, since you do lucid dream often, is like it's called the lucid dreaming method, where obviously you realize you basically lucid dream, and then you create a portal of like in your lucid dream, because obviously you can do whatever in your lucid dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
And once you create the portal and it's big enough, you go through it or jump through it, run through it. I don't care. You do a cartwheel through it. I don't really give a fuck. Do backflip and shit.
Have you seen me try to do a backflip? I'll break my neck.
And then you go through the portal with the intention that you want to go to your DR. And what I've heard from most people that it's pretty successful, but obviously a lot of people can't lucid dream, or it takes a lot of practice to lucid dream. But obviously the intention is like the biggest part, and stuff like that. And then obviously you just wake up in your DR.
That would be really convenient if I could do that. I'm just worried about using it as an escape mechanism, and I don't want to do that.
That is a big, like, we talk about that all the time on Shift Talk. I want to talk about that in an episode. We've talked about it in a couple episodes, like briefly, but I want to like full on talk about it. I can't remember which episode we talked about it in. I want to say
I think it was 2.
I think it was 2, and I think we also talked about it again in an episode with Olivia. I think it may have been the first episode with Olivia. But anyway, you should check out any episode that I said with that. I wish I could remember which episode I said that in, but I really want to specify that overall you should not use shifting as an escape method. It's just, in my opinion, like, it's not worth it.
It's not very safe.
Yeah.
Especially if you are suffering from mental illness. There are other ways to help yourself. So if you're going through a bad time, don't try to use this to escape.
Yeah. You heard it here from a professional.
You heard it here from somebody who's mentally ill.
Because I feel like obviously I can like speak on it but like obviously I'm not mentally ill. No, but I think I talked about it, or maybe I just talk about it with all my mutuals all the time, where whenever I was like really depressed earlier this year, I tried to do it, and then I realized it was just not going to work, and it was just not worth it overall.
Yeah, it's also a lot harder. I mean, I wouldn't know for sure, but I assume it would be a lot harder to get the focus or the intent to go if all you're thinking about is escaping.
Yeah, I fully agree. Going back to your DR,
yeah.
I mean, it was a good conversation, but obviously, we are really good on this podcast about getting off topic.
Yeah, I know
that. Do you know how long you were in your DR, or like roughly how long you were there?
Like in real time, or like in?
No, not real time. In your time, like how long you were there time.
I definitely remember. It's very hard to judge because of the setting, because in the ship it's a lot harder to tell time. But when we did land on one of the planets, it was nighttime, so I would assume I was there for at least a day or 2, because I did sleep while I was there, which was like a weird experience. It's not the first time I've experienced sleeping inside sleep, but it's always weird.
I know people talk about, like, when they shift, they talk about sleeping in your DR, and they say it's generally the same. It's just the idea of it is odd.
Well, and it's even more odd when you sleep in your DR and then you wake up in your DR and you
forget that you're there.
And you forget that you're there, yeah. And it felt like I was waking up and it was normal, but it was like it was normal, but it like wasn't.
I know that I asked you a ton of questions in the car about like whenever you first got there. You say you don't really remember it.
I don't remember appearing there. I just remember that I was there, and it was very vivid. It's just I don't remember how I got there.
I think the only thing that like could really explain it is like, since you do lucid dream all the time and you're used to things like this, like your brain was just like, whoa, this is normal. Like, because I think that was the only way that like we were like, yeah, this is why this happened, because normally wake up scenes are just so memorable for people. Mm-hmm. But I think it's because most people who shift don't lucid dream all the time. But I think since you do it all the time, that's why your brain was like, we don't have to necessarily remember this.
I think the weirdest thing, like something that kind of alarmed me when I was thinking about it, is that I remember my dreams very vividly because I sleepwalked them. I lucid dream, of course. I do not remember dreaming before the desired reality. I just remember going to sleep and I was there, and there was no dream beforehand or after.
Do you
So,
remember the last thing you did there?
actually, believe it or not, I got into bed. I got into bed in my desired reality, and when I woke up, it was to my alarm going off in real life.
Did you like go to bed with the intention of coming back, or like no?
No, like I think it's like I said, I didn't know I was like there. It just was very real. I didn't go to sleep with the intention of waking up. I didn't even know what shifting was until I listened to your second episode, which is why I questioned you about it. But I feel like it's pretty hard to go to sleep with the intention of waking up. Like, I mean, I didn't go to sleep with the intention to wake up in real life, but I went to sleep with the intention that I was going to wake up the next morning. So,
well, like people, like we talked about this earlier, people shift on accident all the time, or shift like with not really knowing that we've shifted, or like that happens all the time, generally. And I don't really have an answer, explanation for that.
yeah.
I think the only thing that like I question how it could not be shifting is like you not remembering your wake up scene, or you not having an intention to come back, but maybe your brain was like, all right, we need to come back. Like that, maybe your brain was just like, all right, your brain was just wired to, not trained, there we go, not wired, but like trained yourself to come back. That's like the only thing that makes me think it wasn't shifting, but it just sounds like it is, because you said it was so different than lucid dreaming.
It was very different. It wasn't painful, and it was like I had memories of that were my own memories, but
you had previous memories?
I had previous memories, yeah.
Bro, this has to be a 10.
Yeah, I had memories that took place in that verse, and I had memories that were partially from like real life, like as if I had lived on Earth and then moved onto the Normandy, like as an assignment. So yeah, I did have previous memories. And the characters that I saw seemed to know me and have a good relationship with me. They greeted me like I was an old friend.
Didn't you say you took Shepard's place, quote unquote?
Yeah, I was Commander Shepard, quote unquote. I wasn't the typical Commander Shepard. I was myself, but I was also the commander. So it was like I was still acting as myself, but I had all the like the superiority, quote unquote, and power that being the commander of a ship would have.
You didn't tell me about the previous memories.
I totally didn't even think about that. I was just so excited that I got to participate in something.
Because the previous memories thing like blows my mind. Like I didn't know that like you had previous memories. Now this leans me more towards like you definitely shifted, because definitely in memory, or not memories, in dreams you don't have memories.
Yeah, exactly.
And you had thoughts while you were there, right? Because I know you don't have thoughts while dreaming. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had thoughts while I was there, because literally the thing I thought about the most is the temperatures. Like the aliens were different temperatures from people, and I thought about how their skin felt a lot. Like Garrus had very rough hands, but his hands were very warm, because I assume Turians are hot-blooded. Like the Asari have very like they had like clammy hands because they look kind of like squids. Yeah,
I always thought that too.
But their hands were very smooth.
Yeah, no, they're so
soft.
pretty.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Hey, after this podcast, look up the Mass Effect alien races, and you're gonna see what we're talking about.
The Asari are even more beautiful in person, quote unquote. They're very tall. The Turians and the Asari were very tall.
Since no one said it, Garrus has an hourglass figure.
He does. He's very. He was thin enough that I could wrap my tiny arms around.
Oh my god.
The Quarians were very short from living on a ship, because they didn't live on a planet, so they had shrunk over time, was what my brain told me when I was there. But yeah, it was an experience.
Wait, what Mass Effect did you go to? Well, you're playing 2 right now.
I'm playing 2 right now. I want to say that the one I went to was Mass Effect 2. I won't go too much into detail because I don't want to spoil anything, but it was mostly peaceful, whereas the effects of Mass Effect 1 and 3 are not very peaceful. They're very war-torn. Whereas Mass Effect 2 is much more on the down low when it came to the war that was going on.
I would agree.
So I'd say I probably went to the Mass Effect 2 timeline.
Did you have all your crew?
I did have. I don't remember seeing everyone. Like I don't know if I just didn't go visit them or if they weren't on board. It also begs the question, like, what part of the game I'm at? Was I in the after game where I had just finished Mass Effect 2 and I was relaxing before Mass Effect 3? So most of my crewmates maybe were not on the ship. I do remember seeing Garrus and Tali, as well as Liara and Joker. Those are the ones I saw that I remember very vividly because they came and talked to me a lot.
Wait, if Liara, then if Liara was there, then no, she's still in the game.
She's still in the game. She's just not on the ship. And like I said, to you, we landed on Ilium, which is the it's not the Asari home planet, but it's like their secondary colony planet.
Yeah, it's where like she like works there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it may have been like the after game because otherwise Tali is at the very end, like she's towards the end of the game, like where
she's towards
where you get her. Because so to explain what we're talking about, if you've never played Mass Effect, it's like I feel like it's like a popular game, but like not as popular as like Call of Duty.
Yeah,
Fallout.
It's popular for a completely different reason than Fallout or Call of Duty. I think it's more on par with Fallout because they're kind of similar where they're open world games where you can have romances and stuff. So Dragon Age and Fallout and Mass Effect all fall in that category, but it's very different from Call of Duty. They're very popular, but for very different reasons.
By the way, my sister loves games where you can have romance options.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite part of the game. The main goal should always be romancing your love interest.
Yeah, no, but what was it? Oh, explaining the storyline. Yeah, so you have to go and like get your crew. You have to go like do missions to go and get your crew, like to get them to join your crew. There we go. And who we're talking about, Tali, is like one of the last people you get to join your crew. So that's why we're like, this is probably the after game where after like you do everything at the very end of the game. And yeah, because like Garrus is like one of the first people you get. So yeah. So can you like walk us through what you like what you remember doing like the 2 days or day you were there?
I'm going to guess based off of my memories that Garrus and I are in a relationship in the universe, or that we're at least interested in each other. A lot of my memories are of him.
Okay.
Yeah. A little bit. I do remember going to Ilium. We visited Ilium because I wanted to see it in person. Obviously, I had previous memories of going there. But I wanted to go and see different parts of it. So we went there and we shopped around. I bought fish. I bought fish for my fish tank.
You can buy animals in Mass Effect. You can buy isn't it like a hamster and fish?
Hamster and fish, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so we bought fish. We did a lot of driving, and I get very I can ride in the ship, but for some reason shuttling around in the little space cars made me really motion sick. So we tried not to do that a lot.
Like the ones around like the Citadel and Ilium, or like the ones to planets?
No, the ones to like the Citadel.
Okay. Those look the worst, to be honest.
Those, yeah, they're very smooth, but I can't look out the window or I get ill while riding in them. We did do a mission while we were there. Like it wasn't a mission I recognized, so I must have created it myself, quote unquote. But we did have to do that, and I had taken Garrus and Liara with me, but we got separated from Liara part of the way through. But that was the biggest part I remember was we did all the sightseeing and we did the one mission. There was a lot of snuggling because I wanted to snuggle. I wanted comfort. And essentially, since I was going somewhere that I wanted to go, my brain was like, and now it's time for comfort. And so Garrus and I snuggled a lot. He's very warm.
With that hourglass figure.
With that hourglass figure. Very rough. But like the hips and like the sides of his head, they're it's really soft and like fleshy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like very soft.
I wish I could like insert pictures because I feel like these people are gonna be like, what the fuck?
They can look up Garrus on Google. It's not that hard.
Yeah, make sure you Google like Garrus. Okay, how do you spell Garrus? Garrus. That's how you spell Garrus. Right?
Yeah. You pretty much spell it exactly how it sounds.
Well, some people don't speak English as their first language.
Yeah, but they can still hear.
You know what? Garrus is not phonetic, I feel like.
Yeah, it is.
Whatever. Would you, so you said that you generally wanted to go back, but would you ever create a brand new DR, like restarting like a Mass Effect 2?
Like where I would go to the same place, but like
no, like make a new DR, but start at the beginning of Mass Effect 2. Well, not at the blowing up part, but
yeah, I don't want to really go there and die right away.
It's not a spoiler alert. We promise that we just
that happens.
Yeah, it happens right away. Credits happen right at the beginning of the video game. I was at the movie. But no, after like where you're in the facility. And then you're like, where am I?
I don't know if I'd want to start at the beginning because it would feel really stressful since you wake up, you've been dead for 2 years, and you wake up and somebody's screaming at you because the facility's under attack. I think that would just be too stressful if I tried to specifically start at the beginning. I think I would have to start when I get the remake of the Normandy, would probably be the earliest I would be willing to start. But when I go there, I don't usually want to do action. So I don't know if I would do it where I do the actual game. I feel like I'm pretty content just doing the after game.
Is there anywhere else you'd be like ever willing to like go other than Mass Effect?
Despite the obvious answer being Dragon Age, I don't actually think I would want to go to Dragon Age just because there's so much shit going on in that universe all the time. I don't know if there's really any other one I would be willing to go to. Maybe Pokemon or Animal Crossing. Those would be nice, comfortable ones. It's honestly kind of weird that the first thing I went to was a place where I could shoot people and die.
That's why people script that they can't die and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I've ever actually died in a dream. I've had dreams with threats of death. But yeah, I think maybe Animal Crossing or Pokemon would be a good one to go to. But I would not go to Dragon Age.
I know I have like thoughts about going to Dragon Age Inquisition. I only like Dragon Age Inquisition. I saw someone scripting that they were, or saw a comment that they were going there, and I was like, you know what, you brave. You're brave. No, because that game is pretty long, full of lots of side quests. And Kieran did a game where she completed every side quest and like all the. Oh my
god, that took forever.
And that's a lot of gameplay.
I had like 300 hours of gameplay on this character.
And because it's not like Skyrim where like there are main quests, but like they really highly suggest you do all the side quests. Dragon Age is a game where you can do all the main quests and basically like do just fine. There are a lot of side quests in this game. They suggest you do side quests because there's like you need certain things to travel places on like the map. And so I don't know. A lot of the side quests are really fun though. Kieran, I always play the same characters in Dragon Age. There are 4 different races you can pick from. There's human, Quinari, elf, and dwarf. And I always pick elf and mage because elves are so pretty and so fucking cool. And I love being a mage.
I've played in Dragon Age Inquisition. I've played everything other than human.
I tried to play human and they were so boring. So then I switched back to elf.
But in the other 2 games, obviously in Dragon Age 2, by default, you have to be a human. And in Dragon Age Origins, there are only 3 races, and I've played as all 3.
I didn't really like Dragon Age 2. I played like probably like an hour of it, and I was like, I don't like this.
I didn't really like it at first either, and then I did.
I got very lost very fast.
Yeah, I kind of hope they remake it, or like not remake it, but remaster it. Same with Dragon Age Origins. I would really like them to remaster both of those. But there's Dragon Age 4 in the works, so
I'm so excited for that.
They also have Mass Effect 5 in the works, which will be the 5th installment in the series, but the 4th, quote unquote,
is the legendary one, right?
So no, Legendary Edition is basically the remaster where they combined all 3 games into one game to make it easier to transport your Shepard between all 3 games. They also did it so that they could update the graphics as well as fix a lot of bugs that the game had. And add a lot of DLCs into the game that you don't normally get, but add a lot to the game itself.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very excited because I'm waiting for the new Mass Effect and the new Dragon Age. I'm very excited for both of them.
Yeah, I've only ever played Mass Effect 2. I've only played Dragon Age Inquisition. I tried to play Dragon Age 2, and I just could not do it. I was like, no. I do like both of those games. We would suggest both of those games.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You don't have to start at the beginning for either of them. There's just a lot of, like, quote unquote, back, or like, they answer a lot of questions if you start at the beginning.
So Dragon Age, you don't have to start at the beginning, like she said. You can start wherever you want in the series. I started in Inquisition and then played the series backwards because I liked it so much. Mass Effect, I would definitely recommend playing in order, but if you're not usually a space games person, I would start with Mass Effect 2, see if you like it, and if you do, then go back to Mass Effect 1, because even with the remake, Mass Effect 1 is very clunky and a little bit outdated. But starting in Mass Effect 2 would be a good starting point to decide if you like the series or not.
I know that the beginning of Dragon Age 2 did answer a couple questions I had about Dragon Age 3, and I was like,
oh yeah, Dragon Age 2 heavily affects the
Inquisition
a lot more than Origins does.
Because I know it started, and I was like, this explains why these characters were together, and I was like, it answered everything.
Yeah, it makes a lot of the characters make more sense.
But yeah, no, I don't know if I want. I was like, that's just so much fighting that I don't know if I'm willing to do. It's a lot of fighting.
Yeah, it's very fight heavy.
Yeah, so I was like, I think I would just go just to live in the village. So
yeah, that's fair.
But most of like the dialogue and fun stuff is like whenever you go on like adventures and stuff.
Yeah.
But I know Sydney, who's in the 3rd episode, from the 3rd episode is scripting traumatic events even worth it? We talk about places to shift to if you really need ideas. Otherwise, I have a presentation instead of a document now that's in my link tree you can totally look at if you need ideas. Sydney, I know, wants to go to Pokemon, and she has a couple different Pokemon ones where she has the one like black and white and like red and yellow where like you go on like adventures like
yeah. Black and white would be a good one to shift to if you wanted to do something more dangerous, more story driven.
I liked, which one did I have? Black?
I
think I had white.
I think you had white, and then you had black too, and I had black and white too.
And then I don't have that game anymore. I wish I did.
Yeah, they actually don't sell them anymore.
I think it's like Moon and Sun. No, Moon. It's like Sword and
Shield is the newest one.
Yeah, I was like, Moon and Sun is old now.
I mean, it's old, quote unquote. But I would say if you really want a story-driven one, the Black and White series would be the best one. Whereas if you just kind of wanted to muck around, Sword and Shield, or maybe
don't you have Moon or Sun?
I have Moon and Ultra Moon, I think.
I liked White whenever I played it, except for I got stuck on Victory Road. So
Victory Road is
so Kieran had to get me unstuck.
Yeah.
But no, that's also, it's really long. Pokemon games are really long, and they are not depicted as very long and kind of hard. It takes a lot of training. You need more training. Anyway, they do take a lot of training. Otherwise, I know there's like the Pokemon movie and shows, but obviously some of them are more based just around the Pokemon. But I would suggest Black or White as well. It's a fun storyline, and basically they're like the same.
It's basically a call out to PETA. That's pretty much what the Black and White ones were.
It's basically the same plot. It's just the final monster is different, right?
What, Black and White too?
Yeah, and yeah, Black and White.
Oh, Black and White, yeah. Because they released 2 of the same game, but they have alternate titles. Some of the Pokemon change in the games, like some of them are only available in Black, and some of them are only available in White, and you have to trade them over, which is why they usually recommend you get both. And then obviously the legendary Pokemon in the game is different.
Yeah. So I know, Sydney, on my places to shift to, I have Animal Crossing on that list.
Animal Crossing is very cozy. It would be very nice to go to if all you want to do is live domestically.
Would you make yourself human or would you make yourself an animal?
So I would prefer to make myself an animal. That's always been one of my biggest qualms with the Animal Crossing series is that you have to be human by default.
I know, that's weird.
It's even weirder because it's called Animal Crossing. I feel like they have the ability to make it so that you can be an animal, but they just haven't gone through with it.
I think it's because they would own, like, people would want to be as, like, it's a lot of designing for the designers.
But there are like over 1,000 clothing items.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, so if they wanted to, they could make it easy on themselves and just make it so you can only be villagers they have models for, which would still leave you with like elephants, cats, horses, goats. If they wanted to, they can even go a step further and make it so that you can be the same animals that some of the NPCs are. Like there's an otter, there's a sloth, there's the tanukis.
I would want to be a cat if I went.
Yeah, there are a lot of cats. Yeah, you can even be an octopus. Like, I don't know. I think it would be nice to just go there, especially with the kind of state of mind I have now where I'm stressed out about the future. Animal Crossing, I think, would be a good one to shift to because it's just so domestic. If all you wanted to do was garden or hang out with your friends or, maybe design your house to look how you want it to look. Maybe you could just sightsee or go swimming. Like it would be a good place to go if you're stressed out.
Yeah, I don't really think I'd go to Animal Crossing also because I've never played Animal Crossing. I don't own a Switch or nothing. Well, I do want a Switch, but they're a lot of money.
Yeah, they're getting cheaper though as they get outdated, quote unquote.
They're not. They were literally came out like a year ago. How are they getting outdated?
You know how technology is.
Yeah, shift to Smash Bros.
Oh god, yeah, I shift there and I just beat the shit out of Pikachu for 4 hours.
I have a so like I said, you don't know this because I don't think you've ever looked at my link tree, but I do have a places to.
I didn't even know you had a link tree.
I do. Surprise. Anyway,
surprise,
Sade. I have a places to shift presentation. Hang on, I'll show you. We could talk about some of the other video games on it. But I know some of the other games I put on there. Some of them were like requests, or not requests, but people suggested I add them to the list. So not all the games I put on there were my ideas. I know someone told me to put Dead by Daylight, which who would want to go there willingly? I don't know.
Dead by Daylight, is it a zombie one or is it a fighting one?
It's a horror game where like there are a couple different modes to it. It's really popular, like PC.
Jesus, that would be like going to Resident Evil.
Resident Evil is on the list.
That's because they just want to get a hug from Lady Domitrisk.
Yeah, no, Resident Evil is on the list. I put The Witcher on there only because it's a show and a video game. You can take your pick, I guess.
Yeah. Skyrim might be fun to go to if I wanted to get tuberculosis.
I did put Skyrim on there. Final Fantasy, take your pick out of the 17 million there are. I think I like 9, 10, and 11 the most, or maybe it's 8, 9, and 10.
I don't know which one has the laugh scene, but I want to travel to there as my desired reality and just go for 5 minutes.
Did you play Final Fantasy or was I just our dad?
I tried to play it, but for some reason it didn't work on our PlayStation.
Because the one with, I think it was 8, 9, and 10, the ones that we had, and I saw that were played the most.
Mm.
And then Kingdom Hearts. The Kingdom Hearts was more like I played that more than you did.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to the customer that came into work a while ago, and her and I were just talking about Kingdom Hearts because I was at the cash register and there was a whole last line, and I was just talking to her about it. I put a Dragon Age Skyrim, Injustice. I put a couple fighting games on there, but Injustice has a storyline.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you can follow the storyline. I didn't put Super Smash Bros. Because the Subspace Emissary and not the newest one, and the one for like the Wii and stuff. Subspace Emissary is like a hot mess. I don't know how you'd want to put yourself in that. Dead by Daylight.
Fire Emblem might be a good one because you could go to literally any of those, and some of them have romances. Some of them you can be a student. Some of them you could be a lord. Like,
that's a good idea. I'm gonna put that on here after this. Mortal Kombat also has a storyline you can follow. I put Animal Crossing.
I want to go to Mortal Kombat just so Johnny Cage could roast me.
Minecraft was
that would be a very good one. That would be very similar to Animal Crossing, whereas it'd be good to be domestic and relax.
It depends on if you play on like survivor mode or not.
Yeah.
I think some people would want to play in survival mode. And then I put Resident Evil, and then Mass Effect is at the bottom of the list. But I will put Fire Emblem as soon as this podcast is over.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea. Are there any other video games you would suggest? Because I didn't want to put like a whole bunch of horror games because I was like,
I think Mirror's Edge would be interesting. You could follow the story if you wanted, but I think it'd be more interesting just to be a runner where you can do all these physical things with your body that maybe you wouldn't be able to do in real life because, she can run pretty endlessly. She can scale buildings. She can slide across like phone wires as a zip line.
Oh yeah, I remember that game was like hard as fuck.
It's very hard. But it's I think it might be easier to go to because it's very monochromatic. Mirror's Edge is all white and reds, pretty much is the style. It's very simplistic. I personally don't think I would like to. I would like to be able to scale buildings and stuff, but I feel like it would maybe hurt my brain to try and imagine all the white.
Yeah, there were a couple games like I tried to think of, but I was like, some of them I'm like, no, like the Alice in Wonderland game.
Oh god,
that is so bloody and gory and creepy, and I'm like, no. If you know what game I'm talking about, I love you. I forgot what it's called. It's like
Madness Returns.
Yeah, Alice Madness Returns. That game is really bloody, gory, but it's a really good game, and it's also really hard as fuck. I just really like games that have like storylines and stuff like that, like Dragon Age, Skyrim, Mass Effect. I could add Fallout to the list. I don't know why I didn't add Fallout.
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit more depressing since obviously most of them take place after a big nuclear blowout. But again, it is an open world game where you can romance people, so it wouldn't be that different from Dragon Age or Mass Effect.
Oh yeah, what about Borderlands as well? But Borderlands is a heavy shooter game as well.
Yeah, there are a lot of. I don't know if I would want to go there.
Yeah. Plus there are a lot of Borderlands to choose from. Kieran and I both tried to play Borderlands because our dad was a huge fan of it. We're not big fans of Borderlands. I tried playing it longer than she did because Kieran's quicker to give up on video games.
I know what I like. It is my problem. So if I play a game and I don't come back to it, I will probably not ever come back to it.
The thing is, I like a lot of different types of games. I love fighting games like Super Smash Brothers, Mortal Kombat, Injustice, and I always tend to be really good at them. And then like story mode games. But like the story mode games are really like Mass Effect and Dragon Age are super different in a lot of ways. Borderlands is also a story mode game, but like it's also way different than the other two, but there's something about it that I really didn't like.
I think a lot of when I think of games, I think of cozy things like I want to sightsee or I want to snuggle if somebody wants to snuggle, but like there are a couple of games I can think of where I don't know anything about the game, but I know the game is beautiful. So I would go like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Oh, why didn't I add that to the list?
That game is beautiful. I would love to go and just like sit in a field or something and hopefully not get my ass stepped on by one of the giant like minotaurs.
Yeah, I've literally seen clips of that game. I don't know why.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. I fully agree. That would be really pretty.
Skyrim's another one where I'd want to go because it's beautiful, but everything else is kind of so.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of games where like the land is really pretty. I would agree. Yeah. Also, Kieran, Kieran and I played really similar games. But Kieran is always generally way better at games than I am, unless they're fighting games.
Oh, I'm terrible at fighting games.
But Kieran is always mad at me anytime I do something different than her. She's like, "What are you doing?" Like, there's a mission in Dragon Age called the Winter Palace mission, or it's called something else, but it's the Winter Palace mission. If you play this game, you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. It is the worst mission on the planet.
That's horrible. It's so long.
Yeah, it's a really long mission. You can't save.
Oh,
that
it's
often.
like Wicked Eyes, Wicked Hearts, or something like that.
Oh yeah. You can't really save that often, so you have to like do it just in one go. And she Googled how to do it like with the tutorial. Her and I both played this game a couple times, obviously. And the first time I did it, I just did it however. And she's like, "Why didn't you do this?" Like, she's like, "I got it like perfectly," because you have to get like the court's approval. And she's like, "Well, I got 100%." I'm like, "Listen, I got like 70." And she's like, "Well, like, I don't know." She was all mad.
I think the biggest difference is because I play with the intent to transport information from one game to another, since you can do that in both Mass Effect and Dragon Age, where you can carry over information and it influences how the story is different. Like I had my custom Hawk in Inquisition. So yeah, I think I do it because I want to have the best ending, quote unquote, so that I can move that good stuff into the next game.
I do generally always try to play story games like that twice, unless it's I've never finished Skyrim. I don't think I ever will finish Skyrim.
I go back and play Skyrim for like 3 days, and then I don't play. But I've just decided I'm just gonna keep playing on my character. I'm not gonna make a new one every time. I'm just gonna keep playing the girl that I have.
I should probably the problem is I always get to a certain point. So I do the Bleak Falls Barrow mission. I've done it a million times.
Oh my god, I know that one like the back of my.
I know, I've done it so many times, and it makes me want to kill myself every time I have to do it. Because
I know, and it's necessary to do. You have to do.
I know, it's one of like the first missions you do too, and it's the worst.
Dungeon crawling only holds its charm for so long for me. I mean, some people really like dungeon crawlers, but I'm not really a dungeon crawling type of person, which is partially why Mass Effect 1 is not my favorite to play. Because Mass Effect 1 is a lot of dungeon crawling. It's very old, so it's very stuck with one thing. Like, all the maps are the same, but they change where the props are, just like they do in Dragon Age 2.
I prefer Dragon Age over Skyrim just because there's like a sprint limit in Skyrim, and like mage, like you only do Magicka for so long. And in Skyrim or in Dragon Age, there's not a sprint limit. And like obviously there's like a Magicka point, or mana, there we go. I don't know how to say Magicka. There's a mana limit, but it's like only with you because you've like several abilities if you're a mage. So it's different for each ability, which is nice. But I just hate the mana limit because it's so short in Skyrim. That's the problem that I hate.
Yeah, and you have to build up to it.
I know, and it's like super small in the beginning. I'm like, how am I supposed to do anything? But the second Dragon Age game I did, was a super high level, and I remember I had like finally figured everything out. Because the problem is there were things I liked about both games that I did, because I preferred my team in the first game, but I found way better stuff in the second game, and I did way more missions. And I liked my character better. So yeah.
That's the nice thing about Dragon Age and Mass Effect versus some of the other games I've seen, is that your character feels very dynamic. I have 3 Inquisitors and I have 2 Shepherds, and all 5 of them are very unique individuals. I don't think that any of them are alike by any means. So I think that BioWare did a really good job with those 2 games and making it so that your character feels diverse every time that you do it.
Both my Shepherds look really similar, because I hate all the way that the Shepherds look.
Mass Effect 2, the Shepherds are really something.
Yeah, I liked my first Shepherd. My second Shepherd is just like the same as my first Shepherd, except for it has light brown hair, and it doesn't have like the dark lipstick, and it's like a little bit lighter skin. And I'm like,
the other interesting thing is what all changes when you change your race or gender. Like in Dragon Age, your gender doesn't matter as much as your race does. Like, everybody talks to you different if you're like an elf or a Canary rather than a person. And even if you are a person but you're a mage, you get talked to differently. Whereas in Mass Effect, there are some pretty drastic scene changes depending on if you're male or female Shepherd, which I thought was really interesting and a really good touch.
Yeah, I like how depending on like what gender or race you pick on the game, it changes. Like it's really interesting. Obviously, I've only played a elf, but Kieran has played all the races. I've seen like some of the scene different or like the dialogue differences. Because so the world does or the places depending on where you go don't really like Canaries and don't really like elves. But obviously they will always favor humans. But obviously each race has like its perks because it'll tell you in the beginning its perks if you were to pick something like, hey, it has this defense like 50% melee defense or 25% magic defense or like anything like that, which is nice. I've never played a male shepherd, so I can't tell you any differences about
Mostly it's not really any game differences, it's mostly dialogue differences. Like sometimes the other characters will not the other characters, like your crewmates will treat you the same regardless.
Like side characters.
Yeah, it's like side characters. Like there's a mission where in order to recruit Garrus in Mass Effect 2, you have to go talk to a merc recruiter. And if you are a female shepherd, he'll tell you to leave, and he'll tell you that the stripper bar or the stripper quarters are on the other side. And you can pull your gun out on him, of course, which I always do because wow, rude.
Fuck that.
Whereas when you're male shepherd, you just come in, you're like, I want to go kill Archangel, who is Garrus. And he's just like, yeah, okay, your ride's over here. Like that was probably one of the first differences I noticed.
Yeah, I think stuff like that is super interesting. I want to play more games like Mass Effect. And any last thoughts, my lady? This was very video game heavy. Sorry, if you're listening to this and you just don't care about video games. I mean, obviously you can exit out at any point. But thanks for listening in if you just love video games.
I do have a question that's kind of related to the desired reality. Do they only have to be movies or video games? For instance, could you go to like a musical as a desired reality?
You can go anywhere.
You could.
Yeah, no, I have like I'll let you see the places to ship to not document. It's a presentation, I promise. It worked really hard on it. It took me forever. It's like 100+ slides.
Oh gosh.
But no, yeah, you can go anywhere. I think the longest ones on there are like shows. But shows, movie, video games, books, magazines. You can go to one. I know a lot of people do their childhood if they had like a bad childhood, or a summer of 2020 without COVID is also pretty common.
Oh, that's a good idea. Catch my desired reality being in Norway.
Yeah. Ooh.
Well, my girlfriend.
But anyway, any last questions, my lady?
Other than that, no.
Any last thoughts?
No.
My last thought is you gay.
Wheezes intensely. Becomes a tea kettle.
Yeah, I was like, you are a tea kettle. Well, thanks for catching in on this super nerdy episode. I feel like anytime I talk about fandom content, you listen to this, thanks. Like the Marvel episode, thanks. Well,
they get a little bit out of hand, but it's okay.
Well, like if you listen to this whole episode and you like really care about this episode, I love you.
You say that all the time.
Yeah, no, I love you. The fans are like, oh my god.
I'm gotta go wash my mouth out now.
Yeah, they're like, excuse me. Anyway, thanks for listening on this episode with my sister Kieran. If you want to hear more from Kieran, just say so. Just be like, hey yo, we want Kieran back. Anyway, you guys can go ahead and listen to next week's episode next week. Thanks, Olivia, for putting that in my mind.
Episode next week.
Listen to next week's episode next week. Olivia put that in my mind. But yeah, go ahead and catch next week's episode next week on Anchor and Spotify. Goodbye.